Thank you very much for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and with me is Dr. Victor Zuckerman. Last week, my client, Sharon Bialik, held a news conference with me in New York City, in which she alleged that Herman Cain, while he was president of the National Restaurant Association, engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct with her when she met with him to ask for his assistance in obtaining employment. At that news conference, I stated that we had declarations from two friends who Sharon told about this alleged conduct shortly after it occurred. I did not reveal the names of those friends at that time because they wished to retain their privacy. However, after our news conference last week, Herman Cain held his own news conference and stated about Sharon, quote, "I don't even know who this woman is," end quote. As a result of Cain's denial that he knew Sharon, one of our witnesses agreed to come forward, and his name is Dr. Victor Zuckerman. Dr. Zuckerman was Sharon's boyfriend in 1997. He attended the National Restaurant Convention final dinner with her and went with her to the after party to which Mr. Cain had invited him and Sharon. He is a witness to the fact that Mr. Cain did have conversations with both Sharon and him at the after party, and that as a result, when Sharon later needed to look for a new job, Dr. Zuckerman suggested that she contact Mr. Cain for help. That Dr. Zuckerman paid for her room at the Capitol Hilton, but not an upgrade, so that she could meet with Mr. Cain, and that Sharon told Dr. Zuckerman that Mr. Cain had engaged in inappropriate touching of Sharon not long after the alleged incident occurred. After Mr. Cain reviews Dr. Zuckerman's statement, he needs to be honest and forthcoming with the public about the fact that he does know Sharon Bialik. In addition, he needs to admit all of the details of what happened when she met with him in Washington, D.C. in 1997. Further, he should fully disclose to the public the specifics of the allegations that were made against him by the two other women who alleged sexual harassment by Mr. Cain and who received settlements from the National Restaurant Association after they made their allegations. We look forward to Mr. Cain's response and deeply appreciate the corroboration that Dr. Zuckerman will provide today. Mr. Cain's strategy of blanket denials simply won't work. He needs to come clean with the American public. Now is the time. And now it is my honor to present Dr. Zuckerman.
Good morning. Okay. Good morning. Okay, my name is Dr. Victor Zuckerman, and I am the physician mentioned by Sharon Bialik in regards to the Herman Cain matter. I'm here to shed light on whether or not Mr. Cain did indeed, in fact, know Sharon. I am a pediatrician. I am also a registered Republican. No party or candidate from any organization has contacted me. I have made no contributions to any candidate, nor have I endorsed any person for the office of president. I have not sought, nor have I received any remuneration for this statement. I submit the following information for your consideration to help clarify Sharon Bialik's involvement with Mr. Cain. Sharon and I met in Chicago while I was going through a divorce, but living separate and apart from my wife at the time. Sharon was not the cause of the divorce, nor was any other woman. While we dated, Sharon was recruited to join the Educational Foundation of the National Restaurant Association, NRA. She was in their fundraising arm. In the spring of 1997, she was involved in a program for the NRA to help recruit young people into the industry. During the National Restaurant Association convention in Chicago, Sharon indeed did meet and spend time with Mr. Cain. Mr. Cain was the keynote speaker at the event. Her job required that she be present at all functions during the week. I remember Sharon saying that she and Mr. Cain had been at many of the same events during that week. I also recall Sharon telling me that at these events, she was seated next to him both at a luncheon where he was a keynote speaker and at a dinner at Marche Restaurant in Chicago. She also told me she had opportunity to speak at him at length on both occasions. Because of this, she was eager for me to meet him as well. She told me I needed to meet this man of wit, of warmth, and great public speaking abilities. On the last night of the conference, Sharon introduced me to Mr. Cain. Mr. Cain invited Sharon and I to an exclusive after party. It was held in a suite in the Chicago hotel where the main event occurred. There had been almost 1,000 people at the final dinner, but only 50 to 100 were invited to the after party. At that party, Mr. Cain engaged both of us in conversation. What struck a chord with me was that he had told me about his new gospel album. This was 1997, and indeed he released Sunday Morning in 1996. Now, I do not follow this music genre, but to this day I remember how impressed I was by this accomplishment. A few weeks later, Sharon was discharged from her job at the Educational Foundation of the NRA. I suggested that she contact Mr. Cain to see if he could help her get other employment. I made this suggestion because of the positive interaction and the cordial conversation the three of us had during the conference. Ms. Bialik was able to set up this meeting with Mr. Cain. Since Sharon was now unemployed, I paid for the transportation and hotel in Washington at the Capitol Hilton. This hotel was chosen because the Restaurant Association offices were located in Washington, D.C. I did not upgrade her suite. She had indicated in previous interviews her account of what happened in D.C. I can confirm that when she returned, she was upset. She said that something had happened and that Mr. Cain had touched her in an inappropriate manner. She said she handled it and didn't want to talk about it any further. I respected her request, and this issue was never brought up until recently. Sharon and I stopped dating a few months after her return from that trip to D.C. We have, however, remained friends through all these years. Sharon helped me through the heartbreak of a divorce. We decided we were better friends than a couple. We have called each other at least every few months as we've passed through these years. Let me now flash forward. When Mr. Cain came to the national spotlight, we reminded each other that this was the man we had met so many years earlier. A few weeks later, the news reported that there had been sexual harassment allegations by 2 female NRA employees against Herman Cain while he was the president of the NRA. I remembered that Sharon had had a bad experience with him and called her to ask her if she was one of the accusers. She said no, but also added that based on her experience, such accusations didn't surprise her. Sharon became livid as she heard Mr. Cain's denial of sexual harassment. She felt she had to respond to these denials by going public with her experience. I suggested that if she was going to speak out, she should contact Gloria Allred. I have watched Gloria over the years stand alongside women who felt wronged by men of money and power or celebrity. I have seen Gloria empower women to have a stronger voice. Sharon did make that call. Gloria agreed to use her expertise as an advocate for women to help Sharon. Sharon and Gloria are two strong women trying to add a voice for those who can't speak or won't speak for themselves. Gloria received no payment for representing Ms. Bialik, nor has she asked for any. A question that has been asked is, why did Sharon wait so many years to come forward? Like many women in the workplace, she quietly endured what she felt was a sexual assault. However, now Mr. Kane is running for the most powerful position in the world. The public has a right to know this information to help them make an informed decision. Finally, I want to get ahead of any parties who feel the need to discredit me. I have not been accused nor ever committed a crime. I have no malpractice suits against me. I have never had any disciplinary actions taken against me. I am a board-certified pediatrician and have been for over 25 years. For most of that time, I practiced in Bloomingdale, Illinois. I do acknowledge that although I once had a booming medical practice in Illinois, due to many economic factors including decreased reimbursement, high malpractice costs, increasing health insurance costs for my employees, and competition by newly formed alliances, a crashing stock market, and decreasing real estate values, I had to file a Chapter 11 reorganization bankruptcy. However, the payment plan has been approved and all my payments are current. I currently work in Louisiana as a pediatrician for a great company that provides pediatric care to a mostly minority, underserved population. I love my job, my staff, my patients, and the company I work for. I would appreciate that all calls to my office stop completely, as it is interfering with my ability to care for my patients. Please feel free to contact Gloria if you have any questions. Again, I emphasize that I am not making a political statement. I am speaking as a private citizen and not on behalf of my employer or as a representative of any other person or organization. I hope this information that I have provided will aid the public in evaluating the statements previously made by Mr. Kane and Ms. Bialik.
I'll be happy to answer a few questions. Dr. Zuckerman will not be answering any questions at this time.
Are you being sued for malpractice for handling and mishandling of the Tiger Woods case? Is that a true statement?
No.
Okay. Have you reimbursed Rachel any of the money?
I have no comment about anything that does not have to do with this matter.
Don't you think that this is the wrong way to handle a high-tech machine?
Is there any other question from any other, is there any other question from any other? Excuse me, excuse me.
Defamation, hearsay evidence.
Would you like to identify yourself, sir?
I am Joel Pierce.
From,
I have no dog in
if
this
you're
fight.
from the press, you may stay. If you're not, you're going to need to leave.
Oh,
Any,
you're ordering me to
any
leave?
other question from the press that's been invited to come? Pardon me?
Do you find it disturbing that a candidate for the
All right.
President of the United States doesn't take allegations of sexual harassment seriously?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Do you find it disturbing that a candidate for the President of the United States doesn't take accusations of sexual harassment seriously?
Which president of the United States?
A candidate.
Oh, a candidate for the
Yes.
president. You know, I think sexual harassment should be taken seriously by everyone, including candidates for the presidency of the United States. It is relevant on the issue of character. It is also relevant because whomever would be elected as president of the United States would be the head of the largest employment workforce in the nation, federal government employees. And so for that reason, they need to be role models and an example for how employers should be treating employees or prospective employees in the workforce. Yes, sir.
Given that other accusers would not come forward to have a joint press conference, are you not clutching at straws to bring Dr. Zuckerman here today?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last question.
Are you not clutching at straws,
Oh.
as we say in the UK? I'm from London, England. Please forgive my accent. I'm here getting news for the British public. We want to know, are you clutching at straws? And is your agenda to stop Herman Cain?
Our agenda is to give all of the facts so that all of the voters can make an informed decision.
And yet he won't answer a single question.
Is there any other question from, yes?
What do you expect for this to add to the case, as most of it is hearsay as it relates to the sexual harassment charge?
Well, this is a person who was a witness to conversations between Mr. Cain and Sharon, and he also was part of those conversations and engaged in conversations, the three of them, with Mr. Cain.
But legally, you won't be able to speak to any of the sexual harassment that actually happened?
We just elaborated at length about what he would be able to speak to.
Okay, but he said that Sharon told him things, so that wouldn't be admissible.
Well, this is not a lawsuit. You can evaluate all of the facts that have been provided by us, and also the fact that there are 4 women that we know of who have made allegations of sexual harassment and or improper conduct by Mr. Cain, and you can evaluate all of those women's allegations, 2 of which were made in the context of employment while they were employed at the National Restaurant Association and resulted in financial settlements to them. And you can weigh all that against the denial of one man, Mr. Cain, who obviously has a significant motive to deny all of the allegations by all of the women. He has financial motive, he has political motive. His financial motive would be to continue in the race, to sell books, and also to possibly be elected as President of the United States. Those would be some of his motives. He may have others.
So if we're looking at all the facts, are you
These are
going
motives to deny.
to make public the affidavits that are
Well, I think at this point, the affidavit from Dr. Zuckerman, he was one of the 2, has been more fully expanded upon by Dr. Zuckerman today at this news conference.
But his sworn statements won't be made.
Well,
And he won't answer questions.
he is stating this, and he's being truthful about what he is stating. Anyone else who has not yet had an opportunity to ask a question? Yes, sir.
How soon after Ms. Bialik's return from that trip did the conversation take place?
Or shortly thereafter?
Shortly, like a few days, hours?
Not long thereafter. I can't answer that question at this time. Anyone else who has not yet had an opportunity to ask a question? Yes, ma'am.
With this statement, what do you want Herman Cain to do next? What would you like him to do at this point?
I would like him to acknowledge that he does indeed know Ms. Bialik, and all of the specifics of what occurred between him and Sharon, and all of the specifics that were alleged by the other women in the context of their claim of sexual harassment by him while he was president of the National Restaurant Association. Rather than the blanket denial, what did they specifically allege? He either said or did or both. And what was his response to those allegations? Because, of course, those allegations were investigated by the employer, and then there was a financial settlement. But we have not yet heard the specifics. I have no doubt he is aware of those specifics, because in the course of an investigation by an employer, they would have inquired and gotten his side. And yet he has not disclosed that. Anyone else have a question? Pardon me?
Why won't you allow this gentleman here to respond
Okay.
to today?
It's not a matter of allowing. It's a matter of, this is the way we're conducting this news conference. He will
Cross-examination.
be answering other questions at another time, not at this time. Anyone else have another question for me that has not yet had an opportunity? Yes, sir.
Will you have anybody else coming forward to discuss
Well, we are not disclosing what our future actions may be, but for today, we think this is extremely significant and very powerful in terms of the corroboration as we stated it.
Will any of your clients have a book deal?
Anyone
where they will
else,
make money from it
any,
in the future?
the only one that I know of that has a book deal is Mr. Kane, and he's been on a book tour.
Can you guarantee that none of your clients will make
my
money
client-
from a book deal
okay.
in the future?
My client is not interested in a book deal.
What about Ms.
And
Bialik?
that,
Ms. Bialik, will she have a book deal?
that's the person that I'm identifying as my client. I now need to be very courteous, sir. I'm sure you would like to be too. I dare say,
Indeed.
in the
You-
UK, we
women
know about
this story.
we know about courtesy,
Indeed we do.
don't we? So we want to afford the opportunity to anyone who has not yet had the opportunity to answer or to ask a question, to ask it.
Then come back.
Anyone else who've not yet had an opportunity.
Do you encourage the other women that have maybe been a victim of or alleged victim of this to come forward like this?
As to any other women, I understand, at least as reported, 2 of the women signed non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, confidentiality agreements, which are very typical. I've done thousands of them in the 36 years I've been practicing law for victims or alleged victims of sexual harassment. Generally, an employer will require that in order to agree to make a payment. But I understand that the National Restaurant Association, at least reportedly, has waived the confidentiality clause so that those 2 women then could speak about it if they so desired. Because they can doesn't mean they must, and doesn't mean they will. I don't represent those 2 women. Of course, I would be happy to know, and I'm sure the public would be happy to know, what the specifics of their allegations were. However, they've chosen to maintain their privacy and not speak about it, and I respect that as well. Each woman has to decide for herself when she is going to come forward or if she is going to go forward. Many women have a lot of considerations, family considerations, many others. So whatever they decide, I support them in that. Yes.
Ms. Allred, thank you for taking my question. Do you agree that it's a very unfavorable climate for a victim to come forward with something like this in our culture, and what do you think you could attribute that to if you do?
Well, in this particular matter involving Mr. Kane, I have said, and I still feel, that he appears to have adopted, he and his political operatives, a scorched earth, take no prisoners approach to women who come forward. In other words, to try to put anything out there that they think might cause them to be discredited. But I don't think it's successful. And this is why it is so brave of both Sharon and Dr. Zuckerman to come forward knowing this. For example, last week, the Kane campaign put out quite a bit about Sharon's financial history. Well, yes, she's had financial challenges. Millions of Americans, particularly single moms like Sharon, have had their financial challenges. All this does is say to me that she deserves extra credit because she could have sold this story for a lot of money and resolved all of her financial issues. But rather than do that, she instead held a news conference, said it without any compensation. She's not seeking any. She will not accept any. And to me, that just adds to her credibility. So, yes, she freely admits she's not rich and famous and politically connected like Mr. Kane. She doesn't have a whole entourage of lawyers and handlers and press people and political people to advise her, to support her, bodyguards, whatever else. She doesn't have that. She's a single mom. But yet she came forward. So I don't think it's a crime or anything to be ashamed of because a woman has financial challenges.
If Mr. Kane was polling, say, 4th or 5th right now, would you be here in Shreveport? Would this be going on?
Shreveport is a beautiful place. Might be here anyway. But would I be here? It really has nothing to do with where he is in the polls. It has to do with the American public being entitled to the truth. And it's as simple as that. Wherever he is in the polls, they're entitled to it and they'll make their decision. And I'm not telling them to make it one way or another. But as I said last week, if all of the allegations of all of the women are true, then he is a serial liar and a serial sexual harasser.
That's BS.
Anything further? Yes.
Speaking of being entitled to the truth, you mentioned there may be more people you've spoken with that could come forward.
Well, I didn't
If
say
is
that
the
exact. I
case-
didn't put it that way,
Okay.
but
But if that is the case, is it not fair to Mr. Kane to put all the cards on the table right now and give him a chance to confront his accusers?
well, as I said to Sean Hannity last week on his show,
I saw that interview. That's
yes, don't we all love surprises?
I mean, but is that fair to him? Look, I mean,
Fairness is giving the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the American public, and that's what Mr. Kane needs to do.
Not subjecting it to cross-examination.
Anything further?
will someone say you're just dragging this out to keep it in the news?
Okay, well, some would
So
say a
it's
lot of
all-
things, and you know what? If he hadn't denied it, we wouldn't be here today. So that's all within Mr. Kane's ability. If he wants to end this, let him come clean. That's all we ask.
Can we trust the word of Dr. Zuckerman?
Anything further that no one, from someone, excuse me, sir, I think you've had your question. Anything further from someone who has not yet had an opportunity to ask a question? In that case, we thank you very much for coming. Wait, did you have one? Yes, sir.
Up to this point, it's been a lot of back and forth, he said, she said, hearsay type material.
Well, it's more like
Is there
it's more like she said, she said, she said, she said, and he said.
Right, is there anybody that's come forth, do you know of any phone records or pictures that would even imply that they know each other? Is there anything like that that exists?
We'll have to wait and see what Mr. Kane has to say this time.
Are you suggesting that if he doesn't say the right thing, then you'll call for another news conference?
Well, it's not about a right thing, it's about the truth.
So
The truth
are
would be
there-
the right thing.
Are there any phone records or pictures that?
I am not going to disclose what could happen in the future.
Well,
but-
we're asking for the truth, and let's just get.
Yeah, well, the
truth
truth is, we've now stepped forward with Dr. Zuckerman, and then we'll have to see what happens next. But I thank you very much for coming. We do appreciate it.